to the maximum extent possible. Some of that may be some of these manufactured the sediment filtration devices or extension of other improvements within these limits. We're kind of exploring that, getting pricing from the contractor that's on board right now, and we'll aim to utilize that grant to the maximum extent and this grant.
Yeah. And you mentioned the word dredging when you were speaking to this grant. And,
Yes.
But the context of that was, correct me if I'm wrong, is capturing the sediments before it gets into the lake. And just to clarify, this does not include actual dredging of the lake.
Correct.
And although you can use grant money to do that, my understanding is, but at $500,000 matching, that is not enough to do the dredging project for Sylvan Lake. And we're looking at other programs to see how we can do that. And I think that would be a common question people would ask. Well, why not use that money instead of doing the appurtenances, just dredge the lake?
Right, and I know the borough has submitted other grant applications specifically for dredging, and that's more in the several $1 million range than this grant would be. But like you said, dredging is an eligible activity under this grant program, but it's just the amount of funding that's available is not enough to do a dredging project for Sylvan Lake. So we're getting creative with other ways to utilize this grant money to filter out sediment before it enters the lake, instead of pulling that sediment out of the lake after the fact.
Ultimately, we want to do this anyway. Even if we dredge the lake, we need to do this because this minimizes the amount of sediments coming into the lake.
Right.
So instead of compounding the issue, continuing to compound it, this is a mitigation to reduce what's coming to the lake, and we still have to deal with the dredging of the lake.
I'm going to make a quick comment just hopefully for the benefit of the public, but the Borough of Bradley Beach has been talking about trying to dredge Sylvan Lake for probably 20 years. Well, long before I came along and joined the council 6 years ago. And what you're not hearing that yet, that we're talking about dredging the lake. We will get to that. That is 100% on our radar. We have, as been mentioned, submitted applications for grant funding for dredging. But what you're really hearing us talk about now, we're preparing the lake to be dredged, because it'd be silly to dredge the lake before you have these siltation treatment devices in place, right? You take out all the siltation. Well, if you don't have these treatment, devices in place, more siltation comes in. So whether it be the work we're doing on the bulkhead and the work you've seen us doing over the past year with outfall pipe and gate and everything, we are preparing Sylvan Lake, and the final straw to restoring that lake, once we do all this other stuff, is going to be dredging. So it's an exciting time, I think, for Bradley. It's a very expensive process, as you hear all the different numbers we throw out. Tonight's a relatively small, as grant funding goes, 500,000 for Bradley, 500,000 for Avon. Those are relatively small amounts compared, for example, to the bulkhead. Less than half of the bulkhead, over $2 million of grant funding available. And other work we've done, the outfall pipe, close to $4 million. So there's very significant expenditures already underway, with more to come. And this governing body is doing everything we can to secure grant funding from a lot of different places with the help of our engineers. So I think we're making great strides. Still a lot more to go, but I want to make sure everybody understood the big picture as well. Okay, Ben, thank you for that. Before we move to voting for the resolution, because normally we give the public a chance to comment on the agenda, I am going to make a motion that we open it up to the public to let them ask questions or comment before we vote. So with that said, I'll make a motion to open it up to the public.
Second.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mayor Gubitosi?
Yes. Public comments or questions about the project that Mr. Matlack outlined? Yes, sir. Mr. Fehrenbach.
Good evening, Greg Fehrenbach, 408 Redwood Boulevard. 3 years ago, there were discussions with Paul Lights of the county regarding the ability to use these funds that you're searching under this application for dredging of the lake. And at that time, the thought was that if you did 2 applications back to back, the cost to the 2 municipalities would be $1 million over 2 years, and the cost to the county would be $2 million over that period, having $4 million to be able to do the sedimentation removal. The proposal that has been presented to you this evening includes sediment control filtration. That has been a high priority of every meeting I've attended and of the private discussions I've had with members of the Sylvan Lake Commission. What has not been a high priority of those that I've spoken to are these sort of cosmetic improvements along Bradley Boulevard. If any of you have ever been in the lake, if any of you have ever had an oar go into the sediment in that lake and gotten a chance to be able to smell the scent that is given off by the sediment, I think all of you would be much more interested in seeing the sediment removal than the cosmetic improvements. And that is generally the feeling of anybody I've spoken to. And it seems as if we're losing another year of being able to put that $4 million package together for the purposes of spending some of those funds on cosmetic improvements.
Thank you.